It's funny how some of the biggest moments in history, the ones that bring everything to a complete standstill, are actually the very moments that create legendary companies. And we're about to dive into a wild example of this, a story about how a deadly virus, of all things, ended up building two massive e-commerce empires in China. So, how does a crisis actually build an empire? That's the big question here. How did the 2003 SARS epidemic, a time of total fear, lockdowns, you remember it, how did that become the launch pad for two of the biggest tech giants in the world, Alibaba and JD.com? Okay, so let's set the scene. Picture this. It's early 2003 in China. E-commerce? It's barely a thing, just a tiny little niche. For most people, life is totally normal. But there's something brewing in the background, a storm that's about to silence the streets and change, well, pretty much everything. And look how fast this thing escalated. SARS wasn't just some flu. It had a really high mortality rate, and people were terrified. Within just a few months, entire cities turned into ghost towns. And that created this huge problem, right? Everyone's stuck at home. So, how are you supposed to get the stuff you need to, live? That one question, how are we going to buy what we need? That was on everyone's mind. It was this massive, society-wide pain point. And it's right there, in that moment of total paralysis, that two very different entrepreneurs looked at this and saw not just a problem, but an absolutely incredible opportunity. All right, so first up, let's talk about Alibaba's founder, Jack Ma. Now for him, this whole crisis, it wasn't about survival. Not at all. He had been watching the market, playing the long game, just waiting for the perfect moment to launch his big consumer-facing e-commerce platform. So, SARS wasn't an obstacle for him. It was the trigger. It was go time. And his strategy was straight out of a movie: secrecy and speed. He knew big players like eBay were looking at the Chinese market. So what does he do? He puts together this secret team, holes them up in the exact same apartment where Alibaba was founded, and tells them to build what would become Taobao. The number one rule: don't tell anyone, not your family, not your friends. And then, bam, right at the peak of the crisis, they launch. Okay, and if you thought that was crazy, get this. Right before the launch, the crisis hits them directly. An Alibaba employee actually gets SARS. The whole company, all 400 plus people, are forced into a mandatory quarantine. They launched one of the most important projects in their entire history, from home. You had customer service calls with babies crying in the background. It was complete chaos. But somehow, it worked. Okay, now let's shift gears completely. Because while Jack Ma is running this secret mission, there's another guy, Liu Changdong, who's just trying not to go bankrupt. His move into e-commerce? It wasn't some grand strategic vision. Nope, it was pure, desperate survival. See, Liu wasn't a tech bro. He was a classic brick-and-mortar retailer. He'd come from a poor background, had a restaurant fail on him, and then finally found success building this chain of 12 electronic stores. And then SARS hits. And his customers? They just disappeared. Overnight. All of a sudden, he's got this huge overhead, 0 people walking in the door. He was about to lose it all. So, in this moment of pure desperation, he turns to the internet. But we're not talking about some slick website. No, he starts posting simple ads on these old-school internet forums. The kind of place where PC enthusiasts would hang out. He posted, and nothing. He posted again, crickets. For a while there, it looked like a complete and total failure. And then, it happened. The turning point. One single comment pops up. It's from an old customer, and it says something like, "I know these guys, I've bought from them for years, and never gotten a fake." That one comment, that was everything. All the trust he had built in the real world, face-to-face, suddenly became the key that unlocked the digital world. He got 6 orders that day. And right there, JD.com was born. And you have to appreciate what he did next. The crisis ends, things start going back to normal, and Liu makes this absolutely radical decision. He closes all 12 of his physical stores that were making money again, to go all in on e-commerce. His own team thought he was insane. But his reason was so simple and so powerful. He said, we have to be ready for the next SARS. We have to protect our people and our business. So there you have it. 2 giants, born from the exact same crisis, but they took totally different roads to get there, and they ended up building 2 completely different kinds of e-commerce empires. And this really gets to the heart of their different philosophies, doesn't it? You had Jack Ma, the grand strategist, the chess master, just waiting for the right moment to make his move. And then you have Liu Changdong, the survivor, with his back against the wall, forced to innovate or die. It was ambition versus pure desperation. And these philosophies bled right into their business models. Jack Ma, the tech guy, built a platform. Think of Alibaba's Taobao like an eBay or a Rakuten. It's a massive digital marketplace. Their job is to connect buyers and sellers. They don't actually own or touch the products. But Liu Qiangdong, the retailer, he was obsessed with the customer experience. So he built a model more like Amazon. He sold products directly, controlled his own inventory, and built this insane logistics network. Why? To guarantee authenticity and fast delivery, the exact things that made people trust his physical stores in the first place. And the legacy of these two models, it's just revolutionary. SARS didn't just launch two companies. It basically dragged China's entire consumer economy kicking and screaming into the digital age. It's what made e-commerce a normal, everyday thing. It's what created the need for payment systems like Alipay. It laid the foundation for literally everything that followed. Social commerce, the whole idea of mixing online and offline retail, all of it. So what's the big takeaway here? Because this story, it's not really just about China or about SARS. It's a universal lesson, right? It's about how these moments of incredible difficulty are often the very things that push us forward, that accelerate progress in ways we couldn't imagine. And check this out. Even after the virus was officially gone, that fear, it stuck around. You can see it here. It took almost a full year for people to feel comfortable enough to travel for the holidays again. And what happens in that year of hesitation? That new habit of shopping online? It goes from being a temporary workaround to just how people lived. It became permanent. And we've all just lived through this exact same pattern, haven't we? Back in 2003, the SARS crisis solved the I can't go out to shop problem. And boom, you get the e-commerce revolution. Fast forward to 2020, the COVID crisis created the at-home economy, solving the I can't go anywhere problem. And suddenly things like contactless delivery and remote work just exploded. It's the exact same playbook. And that brings us to the real lesson here. It's so easy to just look at China and say, well, of course companies get big there. It has 1 billion people. But that's missing the point. The real story, the key to breakthrough success, isn't just about population size. It's about solving a huge, urgent pain point that society is struggling with. So that leaves us with one last question to chew on. If crises really are the catalysts for innovation, what are the big pain points we're facing in the world today? And who out there, right now, is maybe huddled in their own version of that old apartment, or posting on some obscure internet forum, building the solution that's going to become the next giant of tomorrow?